Well, thank you all for coming this evening. As you know, in Mahaska County we have 2 contested primaries, and that is such a rare event that almost never happens. So I want to thank all the candidates for being here and giving us an opportunity to hear from you. This is a real rare treat for those of us who are really active in politics, so thank you. So like Jean said, we're going to start with Dustin Helena, so if you want to come on up, and then I'll ask the first question, and then I'll have to, maybe we'll give this one the whole way, because I'm in front of you. Well, before we start, we're going to let each candidate have an opportunity for 1 minute to introduce themselves, and then we've got 5 questions we're going to ask. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer the question. It's not going to be a formal debate where there's a back and forth, because we want to be respectful of everybody's time and get the other candidates out here. So, excellent. So, why don't you, Dustin, we'll give you the minute, let you start, and introduce yourself to everyone.
Perfect. This one, is this?
Let him get back there and turn it on.
All right. Are we good? All right. So first off, thank you everybody for coming out tonight on short notice and 7 o'clock on a Friday night. My name is Dustin Height. I'm seeking re-election in the Iowa House. I'm serving in my 2nd term right now, currently representing District 79, which is Western Mahaska County and Pella. With the redistricting, as happens, things get changed up, so this new district goes from Western Mahaska County to be Eastern Mahaska County, all of Keokuk County, and a little bit of Jefferson County. I was down there the other day. That's about an hour and a half all the way down from where I live up in New Sharon, all the way down there. I'm married to my wife, Kate. We've got 2 young daughters. We live up in the city of New Sharon, lifelong resident of Mahaska County. In my day job, I'm an attorney by trade. I've been doing that for 13 years here in Oskaloosa, and prior to being in the Iowa House, I served as mayor of the city of New Sharon for 7 years. So I'm happy to be here tonight, looking forward to the questions, and thank you all for coming out.
My name is Helena Hayes, and I'm also from New Sharon. And I've been married 28 years to my husband, who I'm excited that he is here attending to, and my youngest son, William, is here. I have 3 children. One of my sons is a student at William Penn, and I have a daughter who is married and lives here locally, and also, I'm excited to say, I'm a grandma. So I have 1 grandson who's almost 2 years old, so I'm very pleased with that. I am not originally from this area. I grew up in western Iowa, and I came here to go to Central College. And married my husband. We worked off-campus jobs there, and we decided to stay here and raise our family. So I have a degree in environmental science and biology, and throughout the years I've been teaching private homeschool classes, sciences, and then also some elementary stuff. I've spent most of those years also homeschooling my 3 children. Working a lot of volunteer things, superintendent at the county fair for the poultry department, been a 4-H leader. I've been coordinator for some of the classical conversations things in Pella. I also, thank you, that was a fast minute. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to, out of respect for the office, we'll let the elected officials speak first on the first question here. So, the governor has made school choice a pillar of her vision for Iowa. What is your view on school choice?
Thanks, Kurt. I'm all for school choice. During the 4 years that I've been in the Iowa House, we have voted to expand the charter system in the state of Iowa. We have voted to expand the STO program. For those of you who don't know, the STO program is a tax credit program that provides scholarships to low-income folks so that they can attend private schools. So I voted to expand that several times. I filed and ran the bill that removed the quote-unquote voluntary diversity plans in 5 of our districts in the state of Iowa that allowed students to open enroll to where they wanted to because they were being trapped. I think the issue that this question is probably getting at is the governor's current proposal with ESAs. And I have been very open and honest about this. I don't know that that's the right avenue for the school choice in the state of Iowa. I think the right avenue and what I have proposed is to work with the tuition and textbook tax credit and expand that. It gets us to the same place without some of the concerns. Some of the concerns that I've heard from my constituents, including parents who send their kids to private school, is what happens when these schools start to take state money and what requirements will be placed on them. And I've got several parents from private schools that send their kids there that have those concerns, and I think those are very valid concerns. And so, and I've also got the issue with, there's a lot of places where those private schools just don't exist. There's no private schools in Keokuk County. There's just not. That's just the makeup that we have in the state of Iowa. So I think there's ways that we can get there that don't have those same downsides, and that's why I supported the things that I have done that have expanded school choice in the state of Iowa, and will continue to support those. And like I said, I think along with several of my colleagues that looking at the textbook and tuition tax credit to expand that, possibly make that even refundable, gets us to that same point without having those same concerns. And so that's where I come down on this issue. Like I said, I think it's really about the governor's ESA proposal. And so, thank you.
So I am also in favor of school choice. However, I want to clarify what that means. It means supporting ESAs. ESAs are educational savings accounts. That means that you're willing to fund the child and not the institution. And unfortunately, I don't believe that that has been one of the things that my incumbent has been supporting, and he's been very clear on that, that school choice, you have to include the ESAs, you have to include the funding in that. So please be careful when people say they're for school choice. What do they actually mean about that? And so it means that the funding follows the student and not the institution. So I clearly am always going to stand for parents, and what a parent finds is the right thing for their child. If they find that they're in a school district that is not helpful to their child, is not assisting them in the way that they know can be done, and they need to find another public or private or whatever institution, that fund should be able to follow that child without any criteria. The issue about it being threatening to a private school, I've already done a lot of research on this. I've followed this bill since the beginning, and it's been around for years, you guys. There's already Title I, Title II, and Title IV funding that goes to the private schools. They already receive government money, and it has not harmed the private institutions yet. It does not harm Oskaloosa Christian that receives federal money already. So that is one of the criteria that I don't want to cause you to fear school funding, or school choice. So if a parent feels that that is what is necessary for their child, we know that the ESAs that the government, that Governor Reynolds is trying to do right now is only 10,000, 2% of the overall population of the state of Iowa. And Mr. Representative Height here is, I have to confess, he's one of the main reasons why the House is in gridlock right now, because he will not support the governor's bill. And her push right now is she wants school choice because it is the best way for parents to protect their children and give them the best opportunity possible.
Thank you for your answers. For the second question, we're going to bounce back and forth, so Helena will be the first one to answer on this. During COVID, medical freedom became a rally cry for conservatives. It's only a matter of time till another virus emerges. What are your views on medical freedom?
That is such a good question, and I want to be very, very clear on this, because you guys know that one of the last things you want is to try to assume or guess what your elected representative is all about. Medical freedom is one of the things that we need to protect the most. Now, right now, you're not hearing that too much, right? COVID has kind of died down. We're all back to our normal lives, but I bet if I did a show of hands here, you all know that it's not over. And the House has dealt with some bills, a bill last May that they did 3 amendments to that Height did not support, amendments to make the bill better, because right now, do you realize your students in school do not need parental consent to receive a COVID vaccination? They don't need it. Right now, a health facility can deny you if you need a transplant of some sort, if you need to draw blood, they can say, you know what, if you don't have a vaccination, we don't have to accept you. So there's a lot of issues that still need to be dealt with. They had a wonderful bill in the House that got lumped in with the tort reform and is a shell of what it was. I would love to see all health freedoms 100% protected. You should not have to get a vaccine for any reason. You should not even have to share your vaccine status with your employer. You should not have to wear a mask, and you should not be forced to require your children to take it either to go to college or to go to elementary school. So medical freedom, absolute focus.
And that's why I supported it. The amendments that you're talking about were voted down by all the House because, again, the process is to get a bill passed. It's not simply to make a statement, it's to get a bill passed, and that's what we've done several times. Unfortunately, the latest medical freedom bill did get lumped in with a bill that I think put a price on life, and those are two competing interests, and I could not support that by putting an artificial price on life, and that's what I viewed it as, and that's what 11 of my colleagues viewed it as, and that's why we couldn't support that. But if you want to talk about masks, I mean, when this COVID thing was new, the amendment that got your kids out of masks in school, that was my amendment. I ran the bill. I even got an ethics complaint by some parent who was not happy about that. I'm all about medical freedom. I've done it. I've showed it. And that's where I stand. And there's no question about that. Just look at my record. Thank you.
Thank you both. We'll bounce back to Representative Height. The culture war raging against conservative values, as we all know, has reached a fever pitch. In our districts, there has been a lot of conversation about changing the civil code in order to protect local governments and school boards so they can take action without fear of lawsuits. What changes, if any, would you make to the civil code?
Me first? All right. I assume when you say civil code, I assume you're talking about the Iowa Civil Rights Code. Just to be clear. When you look at this topic across the country, it's not the state laws that are the problem, it's the federal law. It's the federal lawsuits that are multi-million dollars against schools. It's not the state laws that are causing the problems. So I think, and I've done a lot of research on this, if we change the state civil rights code, it doesn't change the outcome. The easiest thing in the world for a politician to do is say, I support this bill, knowing that it's not going to change a doggone thing. And that's what I think changing the Iowa Civil Rights Code would do. If there are things that we need to do to protect our local officials to do what they think is right, whether it's provide immunity under state law, I'm all for that. If we need to, with the Protect Women's Sports Bill that came through my committee, one of the novel concepts that we had was requiring the Attorney General to defend these schools who were probably going to get sued over that bill. That's something we haven't done in the state of Iowa before. If we need to do that to protect these schools and these towns to do what they need to do, I'm all for that. I think the question is removing, say, sexual orientation out of the Iowa Civil Rights Code. That goes both ways, and I don't think businesses should be able to fire somebody because they're straight, and that's what removing that out of the Iowa Civil Rights Code would do. If we need to address and make exceptions for bathrooms or locker rooms, we can do that. There's already an exception in there for sports. And so there are ways to go about this, and I'm happy to do that in ways that actually accomplish what you're trying to accomplish and not just be a headline piece.
Well, it's not a headline piece that I have here over several thousand signatures that we presented to many legislatures in January and February and March with the Protect My Innocence group. You all know that we had an incident at the Pella Pool, 15-year-old girl went topless, and we had a meeting at the city council, it was standing room only, crowd outside. What did the Pella City Council do? They said, we're not gonna take any further action. Why? Because gender identity is on the Civil Rights Code. And they feared a lawsuit, they feared their hands were tied, and there was nothing they could do. They are not the only ones. As we formed this group and began to push back against the sexualization of children, we found that this is a problem all over Iowa, all over. And it's not just about transgender, it's about the library books, it's about pornography being made available to children, it's about, it's an assault on our children to sexualize them, because when you sexualize them, you destabilize them. And when you destabilize a child, you make him prone to being easily manipulated, especially politically. So we have approached a lot of legislatures about removing it, and we were told specifically it will never happen. And we're not giving up, because everybody in America has their rights already, their God-given rights. They're not given under a special code that says because you're you're a sexual minority, you get a special privilege. No, we already have those God-given rights in the Constitution. Therefore, everybody across the board. All the other things in the Civil Rights Code are things you cannot change. Age, your ethnicity, your color, your race, things like that. They're unchangeable. Gender identity is changeable. That's one of the biggest selling points, you guys. It is fluid. There's a spectrum. Okay? You don't even have to be human. You can be a cat or a dog. Okay? It's nonsense. And it is time, I feel like, that we stop and push back. Thank you.
Bouncing back to Helena, another issue dominating our district, mostly, well, this is really one that pertains to Mahaska, not so much Keokuk County, but I left it in here because it's something I know that this district's really talking a lot about. And that is the issue of the carbon pipeline. So what is your view on the carbon pipeline?
Okay, yes, the carbon pipeline, definitely an issue for Mahaska County. It's going to go diagonally through this county, and I've followed this issue since it came up, since it was exposed last year. I've been to every carbon pipeline meeting that's been held in this county. I've watched all the subcommittees at the state level. And what I am seeing, and I've talked to a lot of you, I've talked to a lot of people on the streets when I'm door knocking. I have not met a single landowner or a single farmer yet that supports the carbon pipeline. The carbon pipeline will take CO2 out of ethanol plants, liquefy it under extremely high pressure, put it into a pipe, run it all the way across Iowa, and stuff it into the ground in Illinois. Please realize there's no product being formed here, okay? And this is being done by private companies. Private companies are making no product, and they're going to use eminent domain to take your land to put that pipeline through there. So you tell me, as your representative, if I should be in support of that. Because we know this is a constitutional republic, your collective voice should be carried to the Capitol. That's why I'm running, because I do not feel like it is being represented accurately for this particular county, for Keokuk, and for Jefferson. So you can draw your conclusion to that. I would say, I think it's safe that my constituents, this county, this district, is not in support of the carbon pipeline, and I would carry that voice up there to the Capitol.
So I actually voted to put a one-year moratorium on the carbon pipeline because it was coming fast and it was hard, and we said, no, you're not going to do anything until we come back next year. And I think that is a very responsible way to do it. Eminent domain, I think, is a necessary evil. If we didn't have it, we wouldn't have the lights on right now because the power lines wouldn't be run. We'd be using outhouses because we wouldn't have the water lines and the sewer lines. But those are all public goods. Those all serve the broader public. And so if it's going to be using eminent domain, I think that's the big question. And as we sit right here now, what we know about it, and the whole purpose of putting that moratorium is to give us more time. The governor has formed a carbon capture task force to look at this issue. But as we stand here today, I don't see how this pipeline benefits the public good. I don't see how it benefits the state of Iowa, and so I'm not supportive of it as it sits here right now. Perhaps there are reasons that I'm missing, but that's why I voted to put a 1-year moratorium on it, so that we can actually take a look at those issues and then do something about it come next year. That bill is currently sitting in the Senate. I don't know the outcome of it, but that's where we're at now, and that's where I am, because I did not think that they needed to be doing it now. We needed to have time to study the issue.
Thank you again for your answers. For the last question, this will bounce back to Representative Height. Parents across the country have awakened to the threats of CRT and emotional learning. With teachers in Iowa flouting some of our state laws, what can we do, or what should be done more to protect our children from harmful curriculum?
Thanks, Kurt. Actually, we had a bill that we passed in the Iowa House. It was the government oversight bill. Representative Brink ran it, that required the Department of Ed to do certain things. Unfortunately, as making law happens, a shall got turned to a may in the Senate, and took some of the teeth out of that bill. So I think that we need to come back and go back with the language that the House passed last year. And this isn't the only topic where I think we have an issue. One of the big things that I worked on for the past year is teachers who sexually abuse our students. I spent all year working on that, and we passed a bill bipartisanly off the Iowa House floor, unanimously off the Iowa House floor. And the biggest issue I had with that bill was the Board of Educational Examiners. That's the group that licensed teachers. And in that particular topic, we even had to listen to them tell us how they helped teachers who had, as they said, crossed the line. I'll tell you, had a sexual relationship with a student, get their license back. And I had to yell at them and say, that doesn't happen in the state of Iowa, not under my watch. And it didn't with my bill. Again, we're waiting on that one. We passed that off the House floor. But it's those particular areas that I think that we need to address. The Board of Educational Examiners and the Department of Education, they are the two organizations in the state government that is supposed to enforce the laws that we have when it comes to education. And so if we need to look at changing the makeup of those boards, I'm open to that. I actually had that in my bill. I took it out because I told them this is a warning shot. My bill is a warning shot. Fix it or I'm coming back next year. So that's what I think we can do. Those are appointed by the governor. So I've had brief conversations with her office about what would she like to see those makeups changed. But that's what I think we can do and what we should do.
One of the things I would like to be sure as a representative is that there's a lot of transparency, because I've been lied to, and so have you guys. One of the things I'd like you to know is that not everybody here has supported the bathroom bill. The bathroom bill was about keeping boys out of girls' bathrooms, okay? And I'm pretty sure you voted against that because it sounded hateful. No? Okay. I just want to make sure that everybody understands your positions, because a lot of times we all know that politicians can skirt around the issues. CRT, critical race theory. What that means is that basically it means a weaponization of whiteness. It means that you guys all are intrinsically racist because you are white. And this is being taught and infiltrating a lot of the curriculum in the schools. Oskaloosa has Wit and Wisdom right now, where they have a review of that. They accepted that. They had to go through that curriculum, and they literally, the teachers told me, they took white pieces of paper and they glued them to certain parts of the pages so that the kids wouldn't read them. So they're doing some effort, right, to protect them. They had to take out the module on injustice, and they had to not read some of the particular reading books. The problem with that is CRT is infused into the entire curriculum. Governor Reynolds outlawed the teaching of CRT last year. You've probably seen the videos where they are subverting the parental rights by still teaching that, calling it something else. You guys seen those videos online? If you haven't, please look them up. 5 teachers in the Des Moines area that are discussing ways to get around that very law. I want you to know that CRT and gender identity and transgenderism go hand in hand. Okay, it's the idea that parental rights, you don't have parental rights because as a white woman, okay, this is Marxism here, I enforce upon my child race and gender roles. That's CRT.
That's the conclusion of the questions, so thank you. I know those were tough questions, and the point of the questions were I knew some of them you had different opinions, so I really wanted to draw that out because if we're coming tonight, we really want to hear the different perspectives. So thank you both, I really appreciate that, and I'm sure everyone here does as well. So we're going to wrap up. We'll bounce back to Helena. You'll have 5 minutes to wrap up, and then you'll follow and end with that. Thank you.
Ooh, 5 minutes, okay. So, in conclusion, what are the most important things I want you to know? I'm running because I have seen what it looks like for voices to fall on deaf ears. I've experienced it. I see a lot of my committee, my Protect My Innocence committee, are here tonight. They've worked tirelessly, researching, contacting people, going to the Capitol, all during this General Assembly. We have some major issues. And one of the things I've noticed is a lot of the legislatures do not want to address, especially the gender minority things, the gender identity, the transgenderism, the LGBT, the CRT, a lot of acronyms there, huh? But it's dangerous ground because there's a powerful, powerful lobby against it, okay? It's dangerous for your political career, and unfortunately, what it's most dangerous for is for our children's future. And this is where we get to speak about what is important to us, and if it matters to you that your children are protected, how we're going to get that done. There are lots of ways we can get that done, okay? School choice is one of them, because if there's gender identity being taught in a public school and that parent wants to pull them out, by golly, that's one of the means. And I will never come between a parent and their child and what they deem is best for them. So I encourage you, I have the governor's bill here, which also includes transparency, it includes parental rights, it includes civics, teaching civics in school, a lot of different things. And I also have a lot of information about school choice. If you guys want to see some numbers, you want to see some hard data. There are 9 states that have already been doing ESAs for decades now. So we have states to go by. We have somebody to see a record. We can look at their records and see. Those schools have not failed. We know we live in a capitalistic country, and we know that competition is always healthy for private businesses and for even the public sector. So I encourage you guys to stay afterwards. I'd love to hear your questions. I want to hear your concerns, what you guys are worried about when it comes to issues. What are the issues that you're concerned about? And I've been doing a lot of door knocking, and I've been hearing a lot of them, and they've been very repetitive. They've been about the same thing. And I do want to encourage you real quick. A lot of people have been worried about the federal stuff, looking out there and going, oh my goodness, the country's going down. I want to encourage you to look here, look in your community and look in your state and focus and see what you can do, okay? I'm a mom, I have a degree, but I'm not a politician, okay? But I'm passionate and I want to do something about what's going on. And so I encourage you to do that too. There's many, many ways to get involved. So please be involved and pay attention, because the ground is sinking below us, and we can put a stop to it as parents and grandparents and Iowans. So I thank you for your time, and I would appreciate your vote, and please stay afterwards and let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.
I want to thank everybody again for coming out on a Friday night. I know this is not always an ideal time, but it's extremely important. This process is extremely important. Who represents you in the future is extremely important. One of the things about being an incumbent is you have a record. You have a voting record that people can look at and can say, this is the guy that voted to lower my taxes. This is the guy that voted to support the transparency in our schools so that parents know what's going on. This is the guy that ran and voted for the property tax reform bill several years ago. All of those things, what we talked about tonight is important, but all of those are important in the state of Iowa. We have in this state a worker shortage because we have people that are leaving the state of Iowa, and we need to be competitive. Because if we don't have workers, we don't have people that work our hospitals, we don't have police officers, we don't have those folks, we're in a world of hurt. And so the things that happen in the Capitol are extremely important. I have been at the forefront of many of these things. Many of the things that you heard Ms. Hayes talk about tonight, we've done through my education committee. We passed the Protect Women's Sports Act through my education committee. That was a House bill. That started in the House and ended up on the governor's desk. The CRT bill, that actually went through judiciary, but that's a House file. That started in the House, and we worked on it and made it a good bill, and we got it to the governor's desk. What happens up in Des Moines is extremely important, and I have spent my time in public service when I was mayor and as an Iowa legislator working for my constituents. I don't shy away from controversy. I'm happy to tell you where I stand, but I'm happy to hear your opinion because my job is to represent you. And it's to represent all 31,000 people in House District 79, and I hope in the future House District 88. And so the job of a representative is to try to figure out what their constituents want. And that's not always easy on some issues because you're hearing it from all sides. But that's what I've always done, and I think I've done a good job at it. So I want to thank you again for coming out tonight. I want to thank Kurt for moderating this. I want to thank Jean for helping to put it on. I know you're always behind the scenes getting things done, and that's fantastic. So thank you all, and I would ask for your support on June 7th and for your vote in the Republican primary for House District 88. Thank you.
I want to thank you both for being here. Like I mentioned earlier, some of the issues are quite controversial, and I really wanted to focus on those. We didn't have a lot of time because I know there's different visions for where our future, where that can go. So I want to thank you both. I know they weren't easy questions to answer. They were kind of designed hard on purpose, so we could kind of get to the meat and potatoes of what we're after. So thank you. Now I'll invite John and Barb up, and you'll each have a minute to introduce yourselves. We'll start with John.
Is that working? Okay. By the way, I hope everybody forgives me for not wearing my jacket. I'm steaming hot in here for some reason. Everyone else has noticed too. It's getting better though, I think. Anyway, thanks. I'd like to thank, is this okay? I don't know. I can't hear. That's a little bit closer. Okay. Yeah, that sounds better. Okay. My name is John Thorpe. I'm in my second term, finishing my second term. I'm seeking re-election for House District 37. You both are. I'm from rural Knoxville. I've lived most of my life in the Marion County area, and I'm a 26-year state trooper. As I said, I live in Knoxville. My whole family's from there. I'm going to try to not hit the 1 minute mark, so I'll be done now.
Hi, my name is Barb Kniff McCullough. I'm a small business owner in the Pella area. I have 12 grandchildren and 4 daughters, and this is the reason why I am here standing tonight. I believe that the future of this state needs to be addressed as far as everything that's been coming down and around us, that we need to stand up, and I am for conservative values, the parent rights and education, supporting Iowa tax reform and job creation. So as a small business owner, I know it's very important to make sure that we get the people to stay in the state. I need workers at my small company, and I look forward to answering some of the questions that you're going to ask us in a minute, Kurt. Thank you.
Thank you both. So you have an advantage. You got to hear all the questions ahead of time, and so take notes if you needed to. So out of respect for the office, we're going to start with John. The governor has made school choice a pillar of her vision for Iowa. What is your view on school choice?
Thank you.
question. Thank you for the question. First of all, I would have to echo what Representative Height said. We've done several things that have expanded school choice, some things last year that I was very proud about, particularly making open enrollment much easier, or at least not only easier, but just a smoother process, and more options were made out of that. Also, charter schools. I think there are several things that we have done to expand the whole concept of school choice. When it comes to the vouchers, which I think is what the question is pretty well driven towards, I'm a big believer that our government is supposed to operate slow, or at least, obviously the executive branch has to respond quickly in a lot of emergency situations and what have you. But when it comes to crafting law, I think our framers set the system up so it's supposed to operate slowly. I'm a big believer in the legislature messes more things up. I mean, we mess up enough the way it is. I know you all feel that way, I feel that way. But if we take our time, if we're deliberate in our pace, I think we come up with a much better product. What I'm concerned about, the reason I bring that up, is we just passed the most sweeping tax reform bill, I think probably in everybody's lifetime. We don't exactly know, we have projections how all that revenue will shake out, but we don't really know yet. So until we have a little bit more of a solid ground underneath us, I think we need to just move slowly and look at this issue after we have a few more years under our belt with the tax structure.
Well, I call it parent choice. I think that it needs to be given back to the parents to make those choices as to where the students actually end up in school. I think that competition is good, just as it is in my business. It sharpens us, and I think that children, in the choices with parents, the parents, mother and a father, had created this child, and thank you. And just from square one, they're saying what diapers that they should choose and what formula they should have. And so now I think that it's an opportunity for them to choose their education for the child also. So I like what the governor has done. I think it's a great idea. And as we have other tax dollars being used, like for food stamps and for Pell Grants and that sort of thing, that we don't tell an individual that you can't utilize them at Casey's, you can't utilize them at Hy-Vee. This would be no different, that they should have that opportunity to choose. So I think it belongs back with the parents. So I call it parent choice.
Thank you, Liz. So we're going to bounce over to Barb on the second question. During COVID, medical freedom became a rally cry for conservatives. It's only a matter of time till another virus emerges. What are your views on medical freedom?
I believe in medical freedom. During all of COVID, my company, KLK Construction, we stayed open. We had to think outside the box as to how to make that company run. We were one of those infrastructure companies that were out there, and what we did is, each day it seemed like we didn't know what was going to be coming towards us. How do we deal with this? How do we maneuver this? But all along, we allowed for our employees, if they didn't feel good about getting out there and working, sharing a motel room somewhere out there as we're doing our work, that was a choice that they had. And we had to work with whoever it is that we had out there for the jobs. I think that each of us can make our own decisions in that respect. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. If you want to be out there and have the shot, that is your choice too. So I think it's your own personal choice, and that's the way it should be here in the United States, that we choose how that we should be living. So instead of the government telling us how that we should be living. Thank you.
I would completely agree with that. I think that's that's wise counsel, I think, absolutely. And I will tell you that this last year we did have a bill that had a portion of, in the House anyway, it had a portion of what I would call medical freedom. And we operate as a team up there. There's no other way to operate. And you identify people who are steeped in certain areas of human endeavor. I mean, if there was some bill on dentistry, we happen to have a couple of dentists. So those are the people that I would go to and say, what do you think about this? You know, can you run me through this? I don't know much about dentistry. In this case, we have at least 3 representatives that have been leading the charge. Now, none of them are physicians or anything, but they've been leading the charge on research, on just finding out everything they possibly can and coming up with the best language that they possibly can for a medical freedom bill. The 3 that I talked to were Henry Cisneros, Salmon, and Westridge. I approached him and I said, what do you think of this bill? Because I was going to vote for the bill originally. I ran it by them. I said, what do you think? Is this going to do it? All 3 of them urged me to not vote for it because they said this is too watered down. And the other thing is, it was also paired with language that in certain lawsuits would devalue human life. I'm a pro-life guy, and that was a pretty good argument to me. So I will absolutely support a bill if we can get one that has the votes, if it deals with just that, or if it deals with something else that I can get behind. But yeah, absolutely in favor of that.
Thank you. We're going to bounce back to you, John. The culture war raging against conservative values, as we know, has reached a fevered pitch. In our district, there's been much conversation about changing the civil code to protect local governments and school boards so they can take action without fear of lawsuits. What changes, if any, would you make to the civil code?
I'm not sure that I would make any changes at this point. And Representative Height brought up a very good point. Most of these lawsuits are all federal, and that could be very frustrating. It's very hard to get anything passed at the federal level, obviously. But I don't actually think that's going to. I don't think it's going to do what people think it will. Sorry, that's such a short answer, but that's about all I can give you on that one.
Yeah, I think once you start changing the civil code, who knows where another piece might go. I don't know that is the answer. Conservative values need to stay out there. We need to make sure that those value systems that we want, that we love, that we preserve, stay within Iowa, and we also need that across the United States, but definitely here. When I think of my 12 grandkids and my 4 daughters, I appreciate living here in Iowa, raising them up here, and want to make sure that what we do here in Iowa is for the best of our children and our grandchildren. So,
Thank you. We're going to start back up with you here,
Okay.
Barb. So another issue dominating, as I mentioned before, Mahaska County. This isn't something that Keokuk's talking much about because it doesn't pertain to us, but is the issue of the carbon pipeline. What is your view on the carbon pipeline?
okay, now I can't really speak to that one whatsoever because I don't know that much about the carbon pipeline. I need to find out more, so for me to speak to it would do it an injustice. So that's about all I can say on that. I learned more tonight than I have by listening to the other 2 individuals, and I'm curious to know what you said too, John. So I'm sorry, I'd like to know more about it.
I have to admit that's kind of where I'm at too. I think if 10 years ago, if anybody had told this room that, hey, we're going to have this pipe going underground squirting carbon across the state, I mean, I think all of us would have looked at him with a very perplexed look. And I think the task force that the governor's put together, I think that's going to give us some pretty good information. I will say in general, I'm not in favor of eminent domain being used. To me, it needs to be a very, very compelling public interest. And I have not seen anything at this point which would lead me to believe that this necessarily is a compelling public interest. So I also need to learn a lot more.
Thank you. We're going to start back up with John. This is a final question. Parents across the county have awakened to the threats of CRT and emotional learning. with teachers in Iowa flouting state laws, what can or what should we do to protect further our children from harmful curriculum?
Okay. It seems to me that most of the schools, in fact, I watched the video that I think, has everybody in here seen the video? Show of hands. Okay, there's a video, and I will put something up on my Facebook page about it so people can look at it. But basically, it's I guess I would say it's a combination of recordings made by, I'm not sure if it was one journalist or several, but they went in and talked to several administrators in several Polk County, I think Polk and maybe Dallas County school systems, and they asked about CRT, and the answers that the administrators gave were rather flippant, kind of like, well, we can get around teaching it this way, or we can get around, we could pretend we're following the law, but we aren't really. In any event, you really should watch it. It's pretty interesting. One of the things I thought to myself when I was watching that video is I noticed that there aren't any of those schools around here. Now, we don't know that some of those things aren't happening here once in a while, but I don't get complaints about that, and I think that says some pretty good things about our school districts around here. One thing that I think we can do is, and Pella has been doing very well at this lately, Anita knows what I'm talking about, grassroots, getting people interested in running for school board who are going to stand up against that type of thing. So I think a lot of this needs to come from the grassroots, the local level. Again, I'm the kind of Republican I am. I don't want any larger system of government sticking their hands down into a local control issue if it can be helped. The other thing, one thing to think about is that we do have the Board of Educational Examiners that I think right now are looking pretty seriously at this, at the administrators that were in the video.
I think it starts with the parents, again, being aware of what it is that the teachers and the school systems are trying to make sure that our children know about. If we get the parents to come around the kids and make sure that what we don't want to see in the school systems is being pushed, looked at, that the opportunities to make some changes somewhere along the line is better if it starts right from home. Home is where everything begins. The mother, the father, taking care of the child, making sure that the school systems that are out there and what they are learning. I like the fact that the teachers are going to have to put out there what it is that they're teaching so that the parents and even a grandparent can understand what it is that the kid is seeing during the course of the day. I think that is pragmatic that that happens. So I think parents are waking up finally and saying, hey, I don't want that to happen. I'm taking this back, and I'm going to make sure that my child is taught right from wrong. And when the good Lord made a man and a woman and said to go out and fill the earth with individuals, I think that he is in control, and that as long as we keep looking to him and asking him for guidance, I know he will stand with us and we will make good, right choices. Thank you.
So that concludes the questions for the evening. Now you each have 5 minutes to speak on your behalf and any other issues that weren't addressed with the questions, and we'll start with you and then we'll finish with Representative.
Thank you. I appreciate both of you having us here today, Jean and Kurt, and everybody that came to listen to the issues at hand, the questions that came before us. I just want to say that I believe in the state of Iowa. I believe in family issues. I believe in my Lord Jesus Christ, and I know that if I'm elected to run in the House seat for this district, that I will vote, I will listen, but I will vote on a conservative value system that promotes family, promotes small business, and that we need to do what's right. To me, less government is always better. Small businesses, don't put any more mandates on us. Let us do what we know that we can do. How do we gather more individuals to come to this state? Because it's a great state. How do we promote better the state of Iowa to say, hey, look at us, look what we've done, look where we've come. And our governor is fantastic. She has done so many wonderful things for this state. And I think we are going to move even faster and farther with her as our lead over the next years. And I am so proud to be serving under her as an individual on some boards that she put me on. But I am really excited to be elected to that House seat so that I can follow her through and make sure what she has in mind gets pushed through. So thank you so much for allowing me this time. This is my very first forum, so excuse me if I stumbled a little bit, but thank you. I truly do. I appreciate each one of those smiling faces that are out there tonight with us. So.
I'd like to once again thank everybody for coming in here on a completely serviceable Friday evening. And by the way, Barb, I know it's your first one, but you did very well as far as I can tell. So I'm probably not supposed to say that, but I think you did really, really well. Anyway, I'm going to tell you why I'm running again and why I want to be in the House for at least another 2 years. And there's three particular, these are not the only things. But since I have 5 minutes, I'll try to fill this with some human interest stuff. The Life Amendment. We have to pass the Life Amendment one more time. Hopefully, the whole Roe versus Wade thing is taken care of the way I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I don't want to jinx it, but I think things are going in the right direction now. I'm sure everybody read the ruling, the leaked ruling. I'm hoping that works out. In any event, I think we're still going to need to pass the Life Amendment. I want to talk to you for a minute about child pornography. In the last 2 years, after figuring out a couple of things about how the Department of Public Safety deals with online child pornography, I have been absolutely stunned. I've been in law enforcement for 25, 30 years almost, and there is so much. They gave a presentation to me, and they showed a map, and they showed all these different places where they know, because of what the internet provider is providing. The information comes in, the internet provider can say, hey, DCI, or hey, Burlington Police Department, or whatever, we have some type of child pornography material being transferred and pulled into a computer here at this location. Well, that sounds great. Well, it sounds terrible, but you know what I'm saying. That information is great for the conviction of someone. However, we have so few agents that they actually have to choose which kid has it worse. I only have time to work on one of these two cases. Which one looks worse? And to me, that just sends a shiver down my spine. So last year, we were able to get funding for 5 more criminal investigators specifically for that. And that's gonna make a dent in it, but that's really a passion of mine. So I wanted to pass that along. I might be getting close to the 5 minutes, so I'll just say again, thanks for having us, and I'd appreciate your vote. Thank you.
So that concludes the 2 question and answer forums that we have for you here this evening.